Hello and welcome to this edition of our Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network, and joining us in studio today, almost a year to the day for crying out loud. The last time he was here is the Reverend Dave Lima, who is the Executive Minister of the Interchurch Council of Greater New Bedford.
Yes, I am, and it's good to be here.
Thanks for coming in. I know it's been a busy time for you. It's that time of year, and I was looking back at the show that we did last year, and things have changed, but I don't know if things have changed a lot when you really think about it.
Actually, I think in some ways it's gotten a little bit more difficult. And again, as we start having our conversation about the various things, Christmas is obviously a special time of year, and it was always about coming and seeing you or making a greeting to New Bedford about Christ and about the church and about people coming together. And I would do my usual please don't go get into debt because of the wonderful commercials, because your kid's going to forget that toy in a week or a month or whatever, or we all have that horror scene where we buy this gift that we just know that our kids are going to love, and they end up playing with the box more than they play the box that it came in rather than the toy.
You and I have talked about that in the past. I've experienced that.
And trying to remind people that it is about spirituality. It is about our faith. It's about recognizing what our belief system is, and that brings family closer together, and friends, and the love and the care for one another. But when you throw in the different things that have happened over the years, and I thought about that, and what I've come and talked about, since I've been doing these types of greetings to the city and conversations with you, we've gone through the recession, we've gone through difficulties, and then we've also now with COVID, we've gone through the pandemic, and now we're going through another surge, and it's affecting me personally right now. Yeah. My wife is home, isolated, and I was isolated with her for over 10 days, and I continue to be tested, so you're safe, But I've had extended family, and I've even had some death of people that I know and I've known for years, and some that are older, but some that were younger. It is something that affects us all, and I'm seeing that it's affecting our faith and all that. And
I was just going to say, how is our faith right now? And I'm not just talking with COVID. I'm just talking right now as you come to Christmas 2021. How are us as society? How are we with faith right now?
Well, if you listen and watch a lot of what is being written, the pollsters, the different denominations and their annual reports, attendance is down, mm-hmm. And so a lot of people, and that
was an issue you were dealing with before.
It has been,
yep.
and of course with COVID, with the shutdown orders last year, trying to draw people back to the church. I've had people that were out for months that finally decided to start coming back, and then we started having this surge again. Right. There's a bit of fear, and so you do have some areas of the church that stand on their faith to the point where they don't think it can affect them. Forget the masks, forget the vaccines. My faith is stronger than this. My God is stronger than this. And I'm not here to criticize anybody's belief system or anything else. But I do get concerned because there are others who believe in Christ just as much, believe in their faith and their God just as much. Because I talk with the rabbi, and I've talked with folks at the mosque and whatnot, and what you end up finding is that some people are struggling a little bit with why is this happening, and why is this happening to good people, and that's happened for eternity. It's always happened. We don't always have an answer, but it has affected us tremendously in the past year, and so the struggles with attendance got really damaged with this, and so you're seeing a lot of electronic, services online.
Correct.
things like that.
Facebook Live, I know.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes that's wonderful, but truly to connect with somebody, you need more than just the screen in front of you.
Right. Well, I don't mean to simplify, but your business is really a face-to-face business when you really think about it.
Well, exactly. You know, because
it doesn't matter what denomination; it just is.
No, and that's the truth, because you can teach head knowledge. It can seep into the spirit and make us stronger in our belief system and our hope. But it's like, you know, you're working in TV, you're doing media. You went to school for it, I assume, somewhere along the line, or learned it as an apprentice and grew up in it. There's that which you see done, but until you start doing it, it's not real for you.
Right.
Okay? It's just you're there as an observer. Our faith truly grows when we become more than observers, but participants. So when I'm listening about the love of God, and when I'm listening about taking care of the poor, and when I'm listening about, you know, giving water to the thirsty and food to the hungry, when I'm hearing about loving those that are unlovable, that's concepts, until all of a sudden I volunteer at a soup kitchen, or I visit somebody in prison, or I'm doing a clothing drive to give somebody who doesn't have any clothes. And now all of a sudden you see that these people that sometimes we judge as look at they're bums, they're drug addicts, they're this, they're that. But when we work with them, when we actually, you know, get down off our high horses, quite frankly, and start talking to them, we realize they're just like us, but there was a bad break here or a bad decision there, and all of a sudden they find themselves in a lost position. And there are some people that are right there, everybody thinks they're doing okay, but they're not really okay. You know, they've got this mask that the world sees, but they're hurting on the inside. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen with the work that I do with the community partners that we have is mental health this past year has taken a huge hit. Yeah. People with depression, anxiety, isolation.
And I would assume in some regards that what you're talking about goes to you, because in some ways you would think logically that if people are dealing with these stresses that they would turn to God or their religion. Maybe they're not, though. I don't know.
Sometimes that's exactly the case. In fact, with the work that has been done in this community and that has been recognized on a national level, the ministers working with the police department and with drug resource counselors and all, we had recognized 15, 20 years ago that the church really was the faith community, the synagogue, the mosque. We were the first responders. When somebody was having a struggle with alcohol, drugs, things like that. Because the shame and the stigma, people didn't just wake up one morning and say, oh, I'm a drug addict, I got to go see my doctor. Or, oh, I got alcohol problems, I got to go see, a counselor. What you would find is that people would hide it because they were ashamed, afraid of what others would think, possible loss of job or recognition, integrity, things like that. And so it would be the mom who came to the priest, or the father who approached the minister, or the child who came to the rabbi and my father has got a drinking problem. How do I handle this?
Yeah.
What can I do? And we recognized that we weren't prepared for it all. Because there's the old fire and brimstone way of dealing with things. But when people are having their issues, no matter what it is, an addiction and anxiety and everything else, fire and brimstone ain't going to work. Relationship does. So going back to what you were saying in terms of being able to gather in our houses of faith, that's where relationships get built up. And now you have a place of trust where you can share things and other people can see differences in you and say, hey, are you okay?
Has I don't want to say your message, has your approach changed, or as we look at Christmas right now, and as you said, you look at past years, and they're obviously a lot different than except for last year. Does your message or what you're trying to tell people, or even what they want to, I don't want to say what they want to hear, but what they need to hear, is it different because of what we're dealing with right now?
It is for me. I can't speak to everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, the central message still has to be, for us Christians, Christ.
Right.
It's the central message. But again, I think too many times we look at it solely as a celebration rather than a call to action. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Christ came to save the world. That's what we've learned. He came to be the Savior of all those who would believe. But he also came to teach us how to live. He came to tell us, that we're not supposed to have enemies. That if we have an enemy, we're supposed to pray for that enemy. Which doesn't make sense. I jokingly refer during my messages as a Protestant minister, we love to dirty up our Bibles. Of course, now I have a tablet rather than a paper Bible.
You can't write on that.
And I can't write on my tablet.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But there is a spot that I can hit, and it'll put a note alongside a scripture or whatever. But I used to talk about, we used to see a lot of people that would use highlighters to highlight special scriptures that mean a lot to them.
Right.
And I always refer to the black magic marker scriptures, the ones that we do not want to pay attention to. The ones that really go against the grain. Love those that hurt you and spitefully use you.
Right.
To forgive. And how many times to forgive? 7 times 70, which in essence means always.
Always, forever, yeah.
That might be God's concept, but, I've got my own. I'm not supposed to have my own. I'm supposed to have God's concept.
Yeah.
And so, that should always be the center of everything. But for me, again, it's always about the practicality of putting what we learn to action.
Yeah.
And so, especially now with a lot more of the separation or a lot more of the concerns that are out there, it's hard to get everybody to be involved. And I applaud those that have been able to do it better than others. But I think that's where real true growth comes from.
In some ways, I would think that, in some cases, I guess, for Christians all around the world, is that the pandemic has made Christmas simpler. Because you don't have, families aren't getting together en masse anymore.
Right.
And really, if it's just your core of loved ones, it's made it more simplistic and hopefully, in a lot of cases, the true meaning of Christmas is right there.
I agree. And again, I'll use me as an example solely because of what's happening to us right now.
Well, you got experience with yourself.
Yeah, I do. I do.
So,
my wife and I have been married 41 years. And whether it was our parents that would join us for Christmas dinner or our kids growing up, and I've got 3 kids and we've got 6 beautiful granddaughters, and our home has always been filled. Our house gets decorated. As far as I'm concerned, I'll put up a wreath maybe, and I'm good to go. The wife's got to have the lights and the candles and all of that stuff.
You've got a Christmas queen too.
Right.
Yeah.
And but the bottom line is, she got COVID.
Right.
My son's family got COVID. It is so close to Christmas that Christmas Day, we will not be with anybody.
Right.
For the first time in 41 years, my wife and I will be home alone.
But as you said before, your message hasn't changed.
No.
Even if it's just the two of you.
It can't
And
change.
it's probably, your son and his family his immediate family will be together.
Exactly. And that's where sometimes the distractions of everything that's happening gives us the ability to actually remember what we're really celebrating.
Right.
Now, I'll also go this far. For me, it's something that I preach in my church, and I've preached every other day. Every day we should celebrate Christmas, and every day we should celebrate Easter. The birth and the death and the resurrection of Christ. The bottom line is, it's not just a one-day celebration
right.
that we build up to. It should be our faith and our our joy comes in the reality that it all exists, and that gives us hope. And again, if nothing else, that's the message that we should always be pushing. And I say pushing, going back to you talking about how I'm a business, the business of church. But
Right.
But you're right. You're right. The thing is that should be the message that we're all heralding, is the hope that is in Christ. The fact that we have a Savior that we believe was come down from heaven to be with us, to teach us, to lead us, and will someday come back for us. So no matter what we're going through. And whether my wife and I are alone in our home or in our family is somewhere else, and different people are in different places, we're still not truly alone, because the Word says that He never leaves us or forsakes us. He's with us always. And so the person that we're truly celebrating is with us anyway.
Right.
And then you do the other things, like, I'm picking up, my wife and I are going to buy Christmas dinner and deliver it to our kids.
Right.
I'm delivering it to them, and there's still the ways to celebrate, and we'll get together afterwards, and we'll call it Christmas celebration. But the bottom line is the love, the care, the joy, the hope, the faith. It should be every day anyway.
We were talking with Reverend Dave Lima from the Interchurch Council of Greater New Bedford. Christmas, obviously, with kids, special time of year, and I you obviously balance that as well, because Santa is just a fan favorite, really. There's no question about it. What are you talking to, especially in the last 12 months or whatever? How are you talking to the youngsters out there?
Well, that's interesting, because again, I get extremely concerned not only on it just as a pastor or the leader of the Interchurch Council, but as a grandfather.
I was going to say, you're a dad, you're a grandfather, but you're also a pastor, and
Right.
So you've got a lot of kids
and
in your life every day.
And they have seen a lot of things this past couple of years that, quite frankly, you and I didn't see growing up.
Yeah.
Now we've seen our stuff. I'm old enough to remember the nightly reports of the killed in action in Vietnam, the recession in the 80s, the difficulties we've had with the oil embargo and everything else, even the wars, Desert Storm and others, 9/11 and all that. We've seen a lot of things. Again, it's about teaching our kids that life is to be lived. It's not to be feared. That there is a hope, there is a faith, and to help them navigate their concerns, because I do see a lot more concerns than a lot of others. My grandchildren were very afraid, because they've seen a lot of people get ill with
Right.
COVID. Now I've got 3 of them with it. I wish they hadn't gone through it. They've had a rough week.
Right.
But they're coming through it. They're coming through it together. They've been home together.
Yeah.
And they've been praying together. It has actually brought them, it knitted them even more together. And as they pass through this, they will be strong enough to be able to help others. And I think, again, every experience is a learning experience that we can use to help build not only our own faith, but to help encourage others through their faith.
And it's interesting too, is that when you're talking to kids, kids are resilient, and a lot of times, though, they're not going to tell you what they're worried about.
Right.
So you have to, as a parent, but even from your position, you've got to, I don't want to say coax things out of them, but reassure them, I guess, is the best way to say it.
True. And but usually, if we're paying attention, we can tell the signs.
Yeah.
We can hear the comments that they might be making to each other, and what we've got to do is we've got to be open for them to be able to speak to us, be encouraging, so that they can feel safe being able to talk to us. Don't get shocked, because I have to remind adults when I can't believe what she said or what he saw, and I said, you never experienced any of that when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, So why do you think it's different for them?
Yeah.
But because you went through it, instead of getting shocked with them, how would have wanted to hear from somebody that cared about you?
Right.
To be able to deal with it and help them through it. I says, nobody helped me. I just had to muscle through it. And how did that help? Well, I suffered because of it. Or, I made it and all this. Well, now you can help them because you understand, And I think, again, it's we can't be ashamed to acknowledge our mistakes and our successes, because we learn from it all. And the struggles, when they say, I'm afraid of this, Poppy's afraid too.
I was going to say, and I know we've talked about, because I know last year we were talking about, there is the spiritual side from your job and there is the business side too. Yep. But some people don't remember that those that are in your position, no matter what denomination, are people too. You're dealing with mental health issues and all the concerns that regular people, not regular people, but people they're dealing with too on a daily basis.
Yeah. I actually had somebody say that to me yesterday as I was helping them through something they're going through. And quite frankly, I've actually had more people say it to me this year than I've had in a long time. Who helps you? Who helps you? Because, you've always got to be strong for those that need you.
Right.
And when you are a minister, part of the clergy, when you are somebody that leads a flock, leads a church, there's that expectation that you're always going to be there. Now, hopefully you got people around you that can help you, people that can help you with members of your congregation, members of your family. And we have to remember we're not super people. I'm not Superman. I'm not, my wife's not Superwoman.
She would argue with that. But.
Well, but the bottom line is, I do believe, and I don't want this to sound, wrong, but I do believe that whom God calls, He equips. We do have to be mindful of getting some time for ourselves, taking the time that we have to, and to be able to talk with others. And I do have other friends, other ministers that we're able to share and just unload a little bit.
And that's why the council's a great thing too, is you've got all denominations in there. You said you've talked to the folks at the synagogue and the temple and whatever.
Yep.
The denomination may change, but the core issues really don't. For any of you.
For all of us. For humankind goes through everything the same way.
We've got about 5 minutes left. I wanted to touch base with how I know that the Cardinal in Boston has said that the mask requirements are going on in the church effective now.
Yeah.
Your church is going to be full Christmas Eve and New Year's and what have you in the next couple of weeks. You're going to have a lot of people there. How are you talking to them about being safe?
Well, I will tell you how I'm handling it. How I encourage other people to consider it. But just like talking to members of my own family, some who believe got to be vaxxed and masked, and others that think that everything's okay, or I don't need it as much as you do. You need it, I don't. I think this got politicized. I think it got. I think it's too much trolling on online, and people have all become experts. And but what we do, we follow the narratives that we have. I try to use as much common sense with the science that exists. So, in my church, anybody. In fact, I'm implementing it even more stringent. I just sent out an email before I came here. We will have services, even though we're having this spike that's going on. My church has experienced it. If you're not vaxxed, you're expected to wear a mask. Anybody who has been vaxxed, masks are advisable while we're all contained in the same space.
There's going to be a lot of people there.
Exactly.
Yep.
Because we're seeing breakthrough cases, and if you're sick, stay home.
Right.
You want prayer for the sick, we do that. That's fine. Call me. I'll come to your house.
Yeah.
I'll come, prepared. But don't come to church thinking you're okay, and then next thing you know, others are sick.
Right.
If you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for others. And sometimes it's not about whether you got sick or anybody else gets sick. It's about how you make people feel. Because I think that what I've seen, not only in our church but in other churches, some people are staying away because they think other people don't care and they're afraid to be near them.
Right. Last thing for you before we go. You were touching upon it earlier, but how important is it this year to help those that are less fortunate? Because I would assume that I've talked to Michelle Hantman, the United Way, and we've talked to some other folks, Michael Jung, the Salvation Army.
Salvation Army.
The need is so great this year.
It is.
How important is it, even, I know Christmas is right around the corner, but even between Christmas and New Year's, just to help out?
Well, I think, again, this is where congregations, no matter what faith, is so important. Pay attention. Look at who has need. Now, there's the things that we did outside of congregations, like feeding the poor and the hungry, the different people, like the Salvation Army with their New Year's family funds, the United Way with their funds, all of that. But when you're in part of a congregation, this would be my encouragement to anybody who doesn't have a church or a house of faith. Get involved, because that's where you can get assistance. That's where people can become aware of your circumstance, and people can offer their love and assistance. It's very important because of what we've seen in this last year or two. There are some people that are very mindful of it, but there are other people that are struggling. And I'm not talking about the people that have always struggled. I'm talking about others.
Right.
We had the extra money that came, the stimulus checks and all that stuff. But there are people that have been getting evicted. There are people that are struggling. Their rents are going high. There is a lot of help that's needed, but not everybody's aware of it.
Right.
And so getting connected, you're able to find out who has the need and where best to support.
You got about 20 seconds left. I'll give you the last word for Christmas.
Merry Christmas to everybody, to you, to cable access, to the city of New Bedford. Just keep the faith, and the Lord will see us through. And have a great 222.
It's good seeing you. Thanks for coming in
seeing you,
again.
Jim.
We'll talk soon.
God bless.
That's going to do it for this edition of A Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again soon.